Many thanks to Poems a Penny Each. She had a beautiful little wine goblet, or big wine goblet, showing up in her recent video, The Wedding Dress. You should check it out. And it reminded me of this big goblet, this big wine glass that has shown up in previous videos. It's been a while though. For a while though, the glass of wine or a glass of gin was showing up pretty frequently. I thought it was time for it to return. Okay, so in the hopes that this really isn't literary masturbation, but this is really an era of self-awareness among poets and poetry and what our art is about and what it can do and who it could reach. I still want to continue talking about the life of, not the life of, but the poetry of Billy Collins. Looking at his work over the years, it seems more and more there are more and more poems about poems. In his recent book, Ballistics, like all of these bookmarkers that I have here, well, torn pieces of paper, are all poems about poems. Further back, a few years back from the book The Trouble with Poetry, there was this poem of that same title that I think really got my mind started on this whole thing. The trouble with poetry, I realized, as I walked along a beach one night, cold Florida sand under my bare feet, a show of stars in the sky. The trouble with poetry is that it encourages the writing of more poetry. More guppies crowding the fish tank, more baby rabbits hopping out of their mothers into the dewy grass. And how will it ever end unless the day finally arrives when we have compared everything in the world to everything else? And there is nothing left to do but quietly close our notebooks and sit with our hands folded on our desks. Poetry fills me with joy, and I rise like a feather in the wind. Poetry fills me with sorrow, and I sink like a chain flung from a bridge. But mostly poetry fills me with the urge to write poetry. To sit in the dark and wait for a little flame to appear at the tip of my pencil, and along with that, the longing to steal, to break into the poems of others with a flashlight and a ski mask. And what an unmerry band of thieves we are. Cut purses, common shoplifters, I thought to myself as a cold wave swirled around my feet, and the lighthouse moved its megaphone over the sea, which is an image I stole directly from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, to be perfectly honest for a moment. The bicycling poet of San Francisco, whose little amusement park of a book I carried in a side pocket of my uniform, up and down the treacherous halls of high school. That's one worth analyzing and looking into. The trouble with poetry. What do you think the trouble with poetry is? Or do you see no trouble at all? Let me know what you think. I'm curious. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll read some more of my own literary masturbation pieces next time. Thanks for listening, and cheers.